Hello people, this is the video segment for homework number 9. It's the first one. So in here I'm going to do these problems, hopefully 11 through 34. Now don't notice that this problem you're supposed to do these things exactly, okay? You're supposed to do them exactly. Therefore, calculator, you can always use it to check your answer, but it's of no value for a problem of this type. Okay, so let's see now, number 11. Sine of 150. Now I want to remind you 150 degrees, of course. Although I may not need to do this, but I will draw the trig circle. Okay, so 150 degrees is over here. This is 150 degrees, and the sine of it is the same as the sine of 30 degrees, which is the reference angle for 150, and this is 1/2. Now remember, when the angle is 150, the corresponding reference angle is the positive angle less than 90 degrees. Okay, 180 minus 150, so that's going to be 30. This 30 degrees is the reference angle for 150 degrees. Okay, so we did 11. Let me go and do number 12. Sine of 225. It is helpful always to draw these things. It puts these things in perspective. So there is 225 is somewhere over here. This is the angle 225, okay? So 180 plus 225. So once again, I want to remind you that the reference angle, this should be degrees, by the way. The reference angle for 225, see, 225, the reference angle for it, I will write it like that, okay, is 45 degrees. Once again, I want to remind you what the reference angle means. It means the smallest or the positive angle less than 90 between the x-axis and the terminal edge here. See this? This is the terminal edge, okay? So it's this angle, that is 45, but reference angle is between 0 and 90, so positive, and that's going to be sine of 45, except that because the angle we're looking at is down here, it's got a negative sign of the reference angle. Okay, so this is going to be minus root 2 over 2 or minus 1 over root 2. The reference angle allows you to find the magnitude, the correct magnitude of sine or cosine or tangent, etc. However, the algebraic sign, whether it's positive or negative, you have to look at what quadrant that thing is located. Okay, you can always check these things with your answer, and strongly advise that you do. So number 13, we have cosine of 210 degrees. Once again, it helps if you draw this thing. So 210 means 180 plus 30. Okay, so it's over here. So this angle is 210 degrees. And the reference angle for it is right there. So this is the same as cosine of 30 degrees, except that it should be taken as negative, because cosine of 30 is a positive value. However, just look at your angle 210, it has a negative cosine, and therefore it should be you should put this minus sign in front of it. So this is going to be minus root 3 over 2. Let's look at number 14. Cosine of minus 60 degrees. Now, I want to remind you that in class I said that cosine has an even function, and therefore when you put a minus sign here, you can just ignore that. You put a minus sign in front of that angle, because cosine is an even function, ignore that, and this is 1/2. You can also do this thing based on reference angle. Minus 60 is going like that. See that? Going like this by 60 degrees. So it's right here. It's this angle. Okay. So The reference angle for it, I'll write it here, reference angle for minus 60 degrees is 60 degrees, okay? And just the correct algebraic sign. So this thing, what I'm saying is that the same as cosine of 60, but you have to decide on the correct sign, algebraic sign, based on where the original angle is located. The original angle is in the fourth quadrant right here. It has a positive cosine, and therefore this is positive, and the conclusion, of course, is the same. Okay, let's go to the next page. I'll insert the page, blank page. Okay. 15, number 15, we have tangent of minus 60 degrees. Now, once again, I want to remind you that in class I mentioned that tangent and cotangent are odd functions. That means if you have a minus sign here, you can just take it out. Minus tangent of 60 degrees. That's the property of function being odd. And if you wonder, by the way, why is tangent odd? We talked about it in class. It is tangent of theta is sine of theta over cosine of theta. This is an even function. This is an odd function. The ratio or the product, we don't have the product, of course, is the ratio, is going to be an odd function. You can take that out. And of course, tangent of 60, if you look it up, these are those angles that you should have memorized. You should be memorizing. The tangent of 60 degrees is root 3. Okay. Number 16. Let me use a different color here. Okay. 16 is a secant of 300 degrees. What I do is write this thing as 1 over cosine of 300 degrees. And the question becomes, what is cosine of 300 degrees exactly? So if you look at 300 degrees, this is what happens. There is your 360. You go all the way around, and then you back up by 60 degrees. So right there. So when you back up, this is 60 degrees. And of course, the original angle, which was like that, this is 300 degrees. Okay? So another way of saying that is this is the same as cosine of the reference, cosine of reference angle, cosine of 60. Except that for the sign you have to watch out for, the algebraic sign you have to watch out for. And in both cases, these are positive. So this is going to be positive, of course. There's going to be 1 over, and I want to remind you that cosine of 60 was 1/2. So it's going to be 2. I strongly advise you that you check these answers with your calculator. Let's look at the number 17. Number 17 is cosecant of minus 630. First of all, cosecant is 1 over sine of minus 630. And sine is an odd function, so I take the minus out, 630. And it all boils down to, do you know what sine of 630 is exactly? So let's see now, 630, let's try to draw this thing here. First of all, here's the trig circle. Okay, so 630 means that you go 360 degree once. That'll take you here. You go by another 270. That'll take you there. So there we are. This is the angle. So you go 1 round and then all the way to the 270 vertical line. Okay. And it's obvious that sine of that angle is minus 1. So it's going to be 1 over minus, there's already a minus here, you put it there. And sine of 270 is minus 1. So the whole thing comes out to be 1. Check it out with your calculator, please. Now remember, your calculator does not have at least on the pad, on the keyboard, does not have cosecant or secant. So you really have to write it in this way if you're going to check it out. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the next one. So cotangent of 210. So this is number 18. Cotangent of 210 degrees. So what I do is write this thing as uh, cosine of 210 degrees over sine of 210. And let's see now, cosine of 210 means you go 180 plus another 30. That'll take you there. It's 30 degrees. Okay, so 210 degrees is what you see here. This entire big arc, 210, and the cosine of it is negative cosine of 30 degrees. And sine of 210, just look at it, is also negative sine of 30 degrees. Here I'm thinking about saying that basically 30 degrees is the reference angle for 210, so I replace them with the corresponding cosine and sine of the reference angle, except that I have to watch out for the algebraic sign. For 210, both sine and cosine are negative values. That's why I put the minus signs in front of this. So this is equal to, well, the minus cancel each other out. The top is root 3 over 2, and the bottom is 1/2. And the answer is root 3. Let's do number 19. Number 19. We have cosine of 570 degrees. So let's first look at where we are. For 570 degrees, you go 360, and then you go by, what is that? 360 plus whatever you write here, it should add up to 570. So it's going to be a 210, correct? Yeah, good. So what it means is that you go 360, and then you continue going by 80, 180, and then you go by 30 degrees, right there. There's the terminal angle. So this, as you go around 180 and 30, you end up with 210. Okay, so this is the same as cosine of 30 degrees, except that you watch out for the sign. Just look at the watch. When I say watch out for the sign, means the algebraic sign. It is negative, right? Because you are this terminal edge is in the third quadrant, so it has negative cosine. I don't need negative sign, but anyway. So this is going to be minus root 3 over 2. Please check these things with your calculator. It's the only way to learn. Let's see now. Number 29, we have secant of 17 pi over 3. The difference between these other problems is that these are written in terms of radians instead of degrees. So this is going to be secant. Now this one, I'm going to write it as, see, 17, I can write it as, for example, I don't know, 15 plus 2. Okay, so it's going to be secant of uh, 15 uh, 15 pi plus 2 pi over 3, which is secant of 5 pi plus 2 pi over 3. Now, I would like to write secant as 1 over cosine of 5 pi plus 2 pi over 3. So let's see where we are with the trig circle. First of all, change the color here. Okay, so 5 pi means that you go, this is 2 pi, this is 4 pi, is that right? 2 pi, 4 pi, and then you go plus pi, plus you go one more up to this point, okay? And then you go by 2 pi over 3. 2 pi over 3 is there. go to this location. Okay, so this, when you look at this diagram, this piece is pi over 3. Okay, see, you go once 2 pi, another cycle 4. Uh, uh, let's see now. Once, let me change the color here. You go 2 pi like this, and then 4 pi like that, 2 pi plus 2 pi, and then a pi that makes it 5 pi, and then you go by 2 pi over 3, which puts you right there. That means this leftover is pi over 3. The moral story is that this is the same as 1 over cosine of that guy, reference angle, pi over 3, and of course this is going to be 1 over 1/2, and the answer is 2. Okay, check it out. Let's do this one. Oops, what happened here? Whoa. Number 30. Okay, number 30. 30. And what do we have here? We have cosecant of 5 pi over 4. So what I'm going to do is write this thing as sine, 1 over sine of 5 pi over 4. And I can think about 5 pi over 4 as pi plus pi over 4, right? So you go pi, this is pi, plus pi over 4 will land you there, and this is your 5 pi over 4. Remember, the reference angle for this is, the reference angle for it is pi over 4. Oops, I don't know what happened here. So this is equal to 1 over sine of pi over 4, except that you need a a negative sign in front of it to give you the correct algebraic sign. So this is minus 1 over root 2 over 2, or minus 2 over root 2, or minus root 2. These are all same thing. Okay, so let me go ahead and do a bit of a cleanup here. This, oh yeah. Let's do number 34. I'm going to clean, well, we have room here. That's okay. Number 34. Okay. Not 34, 31, right? Yeah, 31. Number 31, which is cotangent of minus pi over 4. Let me remind you quickly that tangent and cotangent, and by the way, so is sine.